Hi guys, welcome from Bulgaria. I'm already drinking my fourth coffee. It's almost end of the working day here, but I'm ready for recording the newest video from our Selenium 4 course. So just give me a second to share my screen and let's begin. Until now, in the first video, we talked how to upgrade from Selenium 3 to Selenium 4. In the next video, we talked about the new relative locators. And in the last one, we discussed how you can use the new ping script from Developer Tools protocol integration to write some really nitty-gritty scripts like showing notification and highlighting elements. In this video and thanks to the Lambda test platform for supporting it. Also, by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the ring bell so that you are notified when we upload new videos. Also, below you will find links to the GitHub repo containing all of the code examples and other useful materials. So in this video, we're going to talk about two of the other major components of Selenium project, Selenium Grid and Selenium IDE. So let me just show you here the website. First, let's discuss shortly Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid, especially in version 4, is a fresh implementation and does not share the code base of the previous versions. Generally speaking, there are two reasons why you might want to use the grid. The first one is to, when you run your tests against multiple browsers, versions of browsers, and operating systems. The second reason is to reduce the time it takes to run a test suite to finish, right? Let's first discuss the first one. As I said, grid, the main purpose of the grid is to support you to have a central place for managing multiple operating systems with a lot of browsers with different versions. For example, you can have a grid of virtual machines or physical machines that each one of them support different versions, for example, of Chrome or Firefox. And basically these different versions, many often our application, for example, banking software or something else critical, should support multiple versions. This is why we need to test against different combinations of operating systems and browser versions. So machine 1 can have Chrome 90, machine 2 can have Chrome 95, machine 3 can have the latest Chrome, and the fourth machine can have Firefox 70, for example. When the test suite is run, Selenium Grid receives each of these test browser, operating system browser combinations and routes the test execution to the correct machine. And as I said, there is a second reason why you might consider using the grid. And this is to speed up your test suite execution. For instance, you can have 4 machines running 3 instances of Chrome 98. And when your tests are run, each test passes to the grid, and the grid assigns the test for the next available Chrome instance. However, you should consider that you will need to, basically Selenium Grid is not a test runner, so your test runner should support parallel execution to leverage this feature. Now let's return to our slides. This is the simplest way of using the grid in a standalone mode on your machine. It will be available on a certain port where you will be able to use all of the different browsers on your machine. And here is a more complex diagram of the different new parts and components of the new Selenium 4 grid. Let's discuss them shortly. First, you have the event bus. The event bus is used for sending messages which may be received asynchronously between the other components. Then you have the session queue, which maintains a list of incoming sessions which have yet to be assigned to a node by the distributor. Then you have the distributor, which is responsible for maintaining a model of available locations in the grid where a session may run. And it's taking any incoming sessions requests and assigning them to a slot. Then you have the nodes. The nodes are basically the agents that run the WebDriver session. Each session is assigned to a slot, and each node has one or more slots. Then you have the session map. The session map maintains a mapping between the session ID and the address of the node the session is running on. And then you have the router. It acts basically as a front end of the grid. This is the only part of the grid which may be exposed to the wider web. And this routes to incoming requests to either the new session queue or the node which the session is running. As you can see, it's quite complex, but this is all the different components that you require to set up really huge grids among many machines, so that this is not like in the past leading to crashes or memory leaks, whatever. In the past, with the previous version of Selenium Grid, they led to many companies and open source projects to build their own implementations of the Selenium Grid to do so. However, this is now open source and available for you. And also to support, this huge infrastructure with many moving parts, the Selenium maintainers add some advanced features. I will just list 3 of them. The first one is the observability. It has 3 pillars: traces, metrics, and logs. Since Selenium Grid 4 is designed to fully distribute, the observability will make it easier for you to understand and debug the internals of the Selenium server. And actually, internally, it uses OpenTelemetry, and every request to the server is traced from the start to end, and each trace consists of series of spans as a request is executed within the server. The second advanced feature is the distributed tracing, where a single request or tracing spans multiple services and components, and tracing tracks the request lifecycle as each service executes the request. It is useful in debugging when there are errors. And also there is GraphQL query support. GraphQL is a query language for APIs and a runtime for fulfilling those queries with your existing data, and it gives the users the power to ask for exactly what they need. So you can basically write queries against the tracing blocks. I know it may be hard to maintain these huge grids and to set up them, to maintain these virtual machines or physical ones, to install the proper software. And by the way, it can be costly to do so. In the past, in some of our projects we maintained this ourselves in the Azure cloud. However, it was a pain. This is why usually in my practice, most companies rely on enterprise clouds, cloud grids, such as Lambda Test, because they bring even more features to the table on top of the maintenance of these huge amounts of combinations between operating system, browser versions, and mobile devices. Usually you have, as you saw, if you watch some of my other videos on the Lambda Test channel, you have UI for checking the results, the videos, you have support for geolocation testing, performance analysis, and much more. Now, let's move and discuss the second tool part of the Selenium project, Selenium IDE. Maybe some of you that are in the field of automated testing, you remember the old Selenium IDE. In the past, that was basically just a Selenium Firefox extension. And now I prepared some demos, and now the video will be much more practical, right? So you can open the Selenium website, Selenium Dev, and under it there is a dedicated page for Selenium IDE. And basically, this is an extension for Chrome and Firefox that allows you to really quickly, without any programming knowledge, so to say, at least this is their, ad about it. So you can download it for Chrome and Firefox. It's completely rewritten. I already installed it. Here it is. When you click it, we can basically, I will just start creating a new project, and I'm going to name it Selenium IDE Demo. And then we need to add a demo URL. I'm going to automate, if you watch some of the previous versions of the course, we are many often doing exercises on this to do MVC application, where built on different technologies, we have just a simple to-do app where I can write simple to-do slides, clean the car, then I can check them, I can delete them, and so forth, right? So this will be the thing that we want to automate. So I'm going to get this URL. I need to provide it here. This will be my base URL, and I can start recording. I'm going to move this to the left and this to the right, and I'm going to click on the backbone.js. As you can see in the right corner, it said that we're automating. And from the right, you will see the different commands. And as you can see, we're basically, it's getting the locators for us. For those of you who are already familiar with it, as you can see here, we can stop the recording. One of the things that the new developers added is that, previously we had this problem with waiting for the element to exist, and many often the scripts failed. Many people used actually hard-coded pauses in their tests. Now this is built into the IDE, and it will wait automatically for the different elements to appear, and then it will continue. If for some reason, this is the second main feature of this new implementation, if for some reason the locator, we can basically, this button cannot be located on the page, there is this thing called fallback locators. And as you can see, the IDE recorded 2 more locators, and these are the so-called fallback locators. And if the first one is not working, it will switch to the next one and to the next one until it's working. We'll discuss later whether this is a good practice or not, but let's continue. I'm going to click here and type clean the car, then I'm going to press enter. As you can see, it's smart enough to capture the keys as well. Then I'm going to type clean house. And then here, when I right click with the mouse, as you can see, I have Selenium IDE in my context menu, and I have some options. I have verify and assert. There is a difference between the two. Basically, the verify is called soft assertion, meaning that even, for example, if the text is not present or the text is not correct, the test will continue, but it will just warn you in the end that basically this soft assert haven't passed. While the assert will directly fail the test and it won't continue. So I will just go to assert the text. It's not really smart every time, so maybe we'll have to write something to improve it. And let's say that I'm going to add one more. Clean the second car, whatever. And then we can try, as you can see, when we hover, we have this delete button, and I can click it, right? And I can click it again. As you can see, it catches it by CSS, finding the first child of this list here by this destroy class. And let's close the test. Let's stop. And let's name this add new items. We can group our tests here in test suites. So here I can create a new suite. I'm going to name this Backbone.js suite because we're automating this technology. And here I can add some tests. For example, this one. When I go to the tests here, I can switch from here, as you can see, between executing test suite and tests. At least for me, at the beginning, it was a little bit confusing. But yeah, from here, you can rename the test and duplicate it. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to name this delete items. I'm going to rename it. And when I press save, I can save it, right? I created a special folder for it, and I'm going to, it's saved in a special file. Basically, this means Selenium IDE, the extension. So I'm going to save it. Also, there is previously, in the previous version of Selenium IDE, this Selenium IDE file previously was saved as HTML. Now, if we check it, you will see that actually it's exported to JSON, right? It's just a simple JSON file that you can edit later. And when you have the test here, as you can see, we have the export option. So you can export to C#, Java, Python, and Ruby. I think I already exported. No, I haven't. I'm going to export this test just to show you how it works. Let's open it. And here it is. As you can see, it's quite easy to reuse the code. Many often you can use this Selenium IDE for recording the correct locators and basically for prototyping. I won't suggest to use it as a main automation tool. As you will discuss later, it's really hard to maintain these tests, even if you can run them, by the way, in continuous integration using the command line that I'm going to show you in the end of this video. But imagine that you want to delete these items. There are more advanced commands that I want to show you. But first, maybe it's a good thing to, I'm going to close this. If we go to the documentation of Selenium IDE, as you can see, I opened the control flow. Basically, the control flow is something that it allows us to write conditional code inside the IDE. In a second, I'm going to show you. We can execute scripts. What else? We have many commands here. Let's dive in. Here you have autocomplete. When you type the commands, you have the drop-down. So I'm going to switch to type. The commands that, as you can see, we have target and value. And basically the target is where this is the locator of this is the locator of the element. This is the command. And usually, for example, when you type, the value is what you type into the field, right? Or sometimes this may be the key that you're pressing. There are other commands that are basically, just require the target where you just put the value. If you're not sure what the command is doing, you have here below, this is the walk, and here you have a reference that explains in many details what the command is doing. This is really nice because in the past, when this was just a Firefox extension, we had to use many other Firefox plugins to extend the Selenium IDE and bring this, for example, explanations or bringing this branching into the code and adding this for cycles. And let's see what will happen. From here, I can run, if this is my to-do, I'm just going to remove for now the destroy buttons. And if I click play button, as you can see, the browser has been opened, and now, yeah, we need to, I need to stop it now from here, because while I was working on the script, it was a little bit, as you can see, I can move the different commands, right? I can delete them. When you open the context menu, you can copy, paste, delete, you can insert new commands. Also, you can add a debug point from here, and when you click the play button, it will stop right here, or you can execute them one by one. Also, you can change the speed of the test, and if you add more than one breakpoint, basically from here, you can disable all of them at once, which is really cool. And if I play it again, as you can see, 4 items have been added, it stopped. Maybe we need to add a quotes, because right now the browser continues to be open. And now I'm going to add a new breakpoint here. I'm going to start it. As you can see, it stopped where my breakpoint is. And I wanted to show you another feature. In order to test the locators, you can click this Find Target page. And as you can see, it's highlighting the element that was located before. If for some reason this locator is not working, you can press the second button here and select the element again, and it will change to the new locator here. Also, from below, you can switch to these alternative locators, which is really nice. And also, you can add comments. For example, here you can add this is commands to add the to-do item. And as you can see, this is like a comment added to the test as explanation. Now I'm going to close it. When we have this delete items, many often we need to, in order to show you the for loop and some more advanced commands, there are many other more basic videos that you can watch online, but I want to show you something unique and that there isn't on the web. So regarding this, as you can see, there is a little bit, there is a problem with my test right now, right? Every time when I open this page here, my test is not clearing the data, which is a problem. And there is another problem when I need to delete these items. It can be slower every time to add them through these different commands. And this is why we can use some JavaScript inside the Selenium IDE to make this a lot easier. I'm going to show you how this works. In the application, we have local storage. The local storage is a place of the browser where client-side, the different websites can store data. It's in a key value format. As you can see here, different to-do items. are added in a JSON format with different IDs. The ID is just a GUID, where we mention the basically here the order, whether it's checked or not. That's it. And as you can see here, this particular application have one more key called to-dos backbone, where all of the different IDs of the following items are listed and separated by comma. And when I open here the console, I can basically clean everything. I can write local storage and I can call clear. And when I refresh, as you can see, everything is cleared from the to-dos. In order to basically edit it here, I'm going to insert a new command, and I'm going to execute script, and then I'm going to copy this code. And next, we need to refresh the page in order to, see what's going on. However, the problem is that in Selenium IDE, we don't have a refresh command. Well, we can always execute JavaScript. So you can say window location.reload, and this will reload our page. So we can add, as I said, another execute script, and we'll reload. And now we want to be able, in order to delete items, we want to be able to, as I said, we want to be able to add new items. In order to do so, we are going to create such items via JavaScript, and we are going to add them to the local storage. So I'm going to create a for loop, and then I'm going to create a new JavaScript object. I'm going to name it to-do. Let me just clear this. New to-do item equal to, I'm going just to show you some of the code and explain it. So here I'm creating a new to-do item that we mark as not completed. Then we get this order, this I comes from the loop. Then we are using string interpolation basically here for the created date. We're creating a string that is the current date. Then for ID, we are just using random number. And for the title, again, we're assigning random number. Then we need to add this to the storage, and we use set item. And since we, if you remember, we already worked them here. Let's add on. As you can see, it's basically to-dos / backbone / something, the ID. So basically, I'm concatenating to-dos / backbone / the ID of the newly created to-do item, and then through the function JSON stringify, I'm converting this JavaScript object to JSON because this is how it is saved here. And the next thing is to, it will be to build and add the ID to this ID here, because if you remember, as you can see, the next item ID is concatenated and separated by comma. So we need to add this. And we do that by getting current list of IDs. And then we're just adding the new ID to the current one, and we separate them by comma. And I think this is it. We need to close the for loop bracket. We're going to execute the script. And next, when we refresh, as you can see, there are 10 new items added. you can think of a better function to create the names. And now, if we want to add all of this here, for now, I'm just going to delete all of this. So I'm not going to use for loop, but instead, I'm going to use the built-in way in Selenium IDE. And it's a little bit trickier to get this, for example, here, in order to have this I incremented during the iterations. It's a little bit strange how it's done, but I'm going to show you. First, we run this script that it's going to return 1, and then we're going to assign it to a variable called I. Then we're going to use the command times, which is something like a for loop. And these times here, if we look into the reference, we need as an argument, the first argument is how many times it will be executed, let's say 5. And then as you can see, the next commands are actually nested. This simulates the scope here. Basically, this is part of the loop. And we're going to execute a script. It will be actually, first we need to increment our variable plus lam. Actually, we are going to do that at the end. The first thing actually will be to return this, right? So here I'm going to paste return this thing here. And next, instead of I, if I want to access these variables here that we created before, again, we use $, then curly brackets, and inside them we provide the I variable. This is how we access it. New date, ID, math random, title, that's it. Then we need to copy the second line, again, execute script, then I think nothing special, just that. Then the next one, again, execute script. Maybe, by the way, there is for sure a bug in our code, but in a minute I will explain what it is. It's not okay just to copy these items like this. Now, and lastly, we need to execute a script where I'm going to return $, curly bracket, I, $, plus 1. This will increase the I variable by 1. And then we need to end the script by end. One thing here, this won't work because this let by the keyword let, we're initializing a variable in JavaScript, but it's basically not a global variable. It's available just in the current scope. This means if I use let in the current context of the target, I won't be able to use it on the second line. This is why we used to use the previous syntax where I'm saying here return local storage get item and assign it to this current to do value variable. And I'm doing the same here. Basically, we need to assign it here to new to do item variable. That's it. And lastly, we need at the end to refresh the current page. And I'm going to close it for now. So I'm going to add a breakpoint here and run the script. what was the error. As you can see here, at the bottom, we can see new to-do item is not defined. All right. Yeah, this was the problem, that I haven't assigned this new to-do item in the right place. It should be here. So I'm going to run it again. What does it say now? We can, in order to not to lose time, I'm going to vote one of the previous solutions, because it's it will take time to debug it, right? I already created them, and I'm going to explain it for you. So here it is. As I said, we use the times, then we have the execute script. Actually, it should be here at the bottom. We use the scripts that I explained before. It's basically the same, but keep in mind that this it's not working. In order to assign a variable, you should always start with return, and here for the value we need to provide the name of the variable. Here we are reloading the page, and something interesting here, in order to work, IDE is not so smart every time to record. For example, let me pause it here. I'm going to execute it. As you can see, it's executing multiple times right now. I'm going just to resize it for you to see. As you can see, it's executed multiple times because it's a for loop, and now it stopped because I'm executing the loop 5 times. And when I recorded first the test, actually it clicked here and it recorded just this CSS child destroy. However, as you can see, if I'm not hovering, you know, this particular one, this button is not showing, right? So this is why I had to manually write this command mouse over, and I roll this XPath to detect the label by getting it by this text here. Also, another way to, instead of using breakpoints, you can use this debugger JavaScript command to stop the execution here. And also, when I used firstly, the context menu that I showed you for the text, you couldn't detect it very good. This is why I had to write my own XPath where I verified the value here. But I wanted to show you all of this to see that it's really possible, even with UI tool like this, to write really complex and maintainable code where, because it's hard here, there is a limitation compared to previous version of Selenium IDE. Previously, it was possible for one test to execute another, and this way, basically, you can reuse part of the scripts. However, now, at least I couldn't find a command for this. So another limitation is that you can select only one row at a time, which for me, it was hard to write. Another thing is that you cannot, like, you don't have find and replace, right? If for some reason there is a problem with some locator, in my experience, these fallback locators won't fix the problem, because many often the layout is, have many changes, and this is why you cannot just rely on these second locators. Moreover, most of the time, from even this simple example, they're completely not working, right? It's just recording the wrong thing. Also, you used to how this cloning and everything is working, but yeah. But again, if you're able to write such a JavaScript to this extent, then probably you should write coded tests and not using Selenium IDE as primary tool for automation. because it's against all standards. And if you have many tests, it will be really hard to maintain. And however, it might be, you can use it to quickly record certain scenarios and export it to code. The locators are relatively good, at least these primary ones. And this can be quite helpful to learn all WebDriver coded commands when you export them and see, the representation. But I would suggest, to learn programming basics and use WebDriver bindings instead. And now, one last thing: if you click here, running in CI, you will see that it's possible to run these tests in command line. Basically, it's just a Node.js runner. You need to use this command npm install after you have Node.js installed on your machine. Selenium site runner. Also, you need to install the correct driver for each particular browser: Chrome driver, Edge driver, Gecko driver. And basically, there is just a simple command that I already prepared here for you. I already navigated to the folder where I saved the project. You just say Selenium site runner /c, the name of the browser that you want to run it, and pointing the file of Selenium IDE. And this will trigger the execution. Also, there is, as you can see, it already started. And here is the new browser. In a second, it will start executing the tests. Also, one more thing, there is a really nice article about it on the Lambda test blog, how to run Selenium IDE tests over the grid, especially against the Lambda test platform. Basically, here at the bottom, you will find this URL in the description, but mainly you can even run your Selenium IDE tests in parallel, and you can do it in the Lambda test grid. Here, you basically instructed to run 4 parallel processes. You mentioned again the Selenium IDE project, the server, which is basically your Lambda test credentials, and the access key to the hub, the browser name, and here you mentioned just the name of the browser, the version, and the platform. I already, again, you can read the detailed article about it. I'm not going to execute it just to hide my credentials. I already executed these tests here, and as you can see here, the video and all of the commands of everything we did before. So that's it. Any features, again, in the next video, we are going to return to talking about bidirectional APIs and Chrome developer tools. And we're going to see how we can use them for geolocation testing. So many thanks for watching. Check the blog. There are many awesome articles there. If you have questions, you can comment in the video. And also don't forget to get your free certification about Selenium, JUnit, and others. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.